Welcome to PatsCast. I'm Brad Whitaker. It is Senior Bowl week, and I'm going to break down four of the players that I think the Patriots are looking heavily at that they should highly consider drafting in late April when the 2024 NFL Draft takes place. Now, I'm recording this early Thursday morning, so a lot could happen. This is before the actual Senior Bowl game, but the practices tend to be a better indicator of how players look against NFL level competition because they're going against really good seniors, and coaches and scouts can really see them tested in a variety of ways. So let's start here with the two major quarterbacks that I think the Patriots are really eyeing. And that starts with Michael Penix, who has shined brightest of those two quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl thus far. As we know, Penix made it to the national championship game, looked really great all season, was in the running for the Heisman Trophy, really struggled a bit against that tough Michigan front. But we know Penix has a lot of strength, plenty of velocity behind the football. That would be something very different from what we've seen with Mac Jones over the last three seasons. And more importantly, he places the ball where it needs to be. Greg Bedard stated in Boston Sports Journal, Penix has no problem hitting on deep overs, outs, and comeback routes, which is really ideal for an NFL starting quarterback. There's no throw that he's incapable of making, and he's going to be ready to do that on day one. And he's a legitimate field general and a leader in the locker room. You ask anyone that's played with Penix, they say this is the type of guy that you really want leading your offense. He's mentally tough. He's not going to, when he takes too many hits, he's going to bounce back and be able to make the correct plays. He's able to process plays quickly and probably is the most advanced of all the college quarterbacks, more advanced than Caleb Williams, Drake May, and even Jaden Daniels in going through progressions and making the correct reads, because that is the most important thing for an NFL quarterback, because that's basically the biggest barrier once you enter the league, especially for an offense like the Patriots. We don't know who the offensive coordinator is going to be just yet, but it is important for an NFL quarterback to know what's the first read, what's the second, how's the play breaking out, and be able to quickly make that decision. Penix is far more advanced than any of the quarterbacks in that area. He's not the fastest, let's be honest, but he is fast and strong enough to be able to be mobile and bulldoze his way through traffic. I'm going to be able to run quarterback sneaks effectively. And he's also able to move around the pocket, has decent footwork at times, and can find ways to extend plays. Now, that being said, his mechanics do break down a little bit, as we've seen a la Mac Jones the last few years, particularly when he isn't fully balanced, when he has to throw off his back foot, and when he isn't able to fully step into his throws. And that can also really affect his accuracy, not just on deep balls, which we saw in the national championship game when he overthrew a receiver of his, but even on those short finesse throws when he's facing pressure. So that is a concern and something he will need to improve on. Obviously, he also has some durability concerns with multiple ACL tears in the past. However, he has stayed healthy of late, so those concerns aren't as big. And it's good to see a guy that's tough and able to bounce back as Penix has and was actually in the Heisman Trophy race this year. But the number two quarterback, and look, I'm naming these guys going with the assumption that, hey, maybe the Patriots aren't impressed with Drake May or Jaden Daniels enough to draft them at third overall. They take Marvin Harrison Jr. or they trade back and select a tackle and then get another guy late in the first round or something, or Penix is available then, they want to snag him. So I'm going off of the assumption here that they aren't drafting one of those two quarterbacks, which is the higher likelihood. But if that does happen, it's really going to come down, I think, to Penix and Nix. Bo Nix clearly is the number two right now at the Senior Bowl. He's actually on the same team as Penix, so we'll see how that plays out. He's definitely a better athlete than Michael Penix Jr. and fits more of a modern NFL offense. He's a real dual threat. Can extend plays and make throws off schedule, which is very nice. He also has NFL level fundamentals in terms of IQ. He can thrive in empty sets, very effective in 2-minute drills. Like, you're never really going to be out of the game with Bo Nix as your quarterback, and that's really good to see. And something that really impresses me, probably more than any of the other quarterbacks in this draft with Bo Nix, is he's able to manipulate defenses with his eyes and his mobility. He can create passing lanes. He can throw from multiple angles. He can do all those things that we see Patrick Mahomes do and Matthew Stafford do, where they're looking one way and they throw another. And Bo Nix is the kind of guy who's going to be able to do that right away. And that's really, really nice to see. Now, some of the weaknesses there. Bo Nix is 46 years old. He's played 13 years of college. I'm kidding, obviously. But he has a lot of college experience playing in Auburn, where he was kind of mediocre and then really began to thrive with that Oregon offense. He's 23, same age as Penix, so I don't think that is a big deal. I like experience. I like maturity. I think that's going to help, especially if they want a quarterback who's going to contribute right away, which Bo Nix certainly can. Now, his footwork, similar to Penix, can be a bit inconsistent under pressure. Again, we've seen that a lot in New England, so that is a little bit of a concern. He's also been really dependent in college on those cues from the sideline, especially when they hold up those big boards with weird pictures on it. Like, he's the kind of quarterback that's thrived off of that. You're not going to have that in the NFL. That's just not really a thing that teams do. So that is a little bit of a concern. And then finally, he can force plays a little bit when he has to improvise, and that will ultimately increase the chance of him turning over the football. It's going to be less forgivable at the NFL level, but I'm a real Bo Nix guy. A lot of people either love him or hate him. I'm in the love him camp. I think if you take Marvin Harrison and you get Bo Nix in the second or third round, you're going to have a pretty good draft. So I wouldn't be upset if that were the outcome, but as of right now, I wouldn't expect the Patriots to take one of those two quarterbacks. I would think they'll take Jaden Daniels or Drake May at third overall. And with that in mind, there's a couple of receivers that I think have performed very well at the Senior Bowl who the Patriots could potentially take. The guy who tops the list in terms of performance, the real standout, people say he's going to be an early day 3 pick, but I think he could probably go in the third round, especially after his recent performance. And that is Michigan's Roman Wilson. Super athletic guy, very fast, runs a 4.37 40-yard dash, extremely agile, and perhaps has the best shuttle of all the players, not just at the receiver position, but all the players in the entire NFL draft. He is only 6 foot tall, 193 pounds, but if you watch him on film, looks a lot bigger, has very long arms, and a frame that can support a lot of additional weight. I would expect him to crack 200 pounds, at least heading into year 2 of his pro career. Incredible ball tracking skills, can make contested catches, and if you go look it up on X, there's a real incredible highlight of a one-arm catch that he made at the Senior Bowl practices, where it came off of a bad throw, and he reached out and grabbed it. It was kind of going the other direction too. Roman Wilson is going to have some spectacular catches as an NFL wide receiver. Now, he's not a big yards after catch guy. I know that's something that's been very important to the Patriots over the years. They've really thrived with guys like Julian Edelman, people who can catch the ball and then add another 20 yards after. He's not going to be Puka Nacua out there, but he is going to have a lot of the same playmaking ability, perhaps even better in terms of catching the football and getting open as Puka Nacua, maybe even better. Too many double catches, though, in college. There's a lot of highlights of him fumbling the football before he catches it, especially in the red zone. So that's a little bit of a concern. And finally, and this is a real concern for a Patriot-style offense that really wants everyone to be tough and block, he's not a great run blocker. So, maybe you have to put him on the outside so you don't have to depend on it as much. But that is definitely his biggest weakness, is he's not a blocker. Not the most important thing for a wide receiver, but for an offense like the Patriots we've seen the last few years, that's been something that's vital. Now, I really like Roman Wilson. Again, I think he is a 3rd to 4th round pick. If he falls to the 4th round, I would expect the Patriots to really want to grab him. Early 3rd round, maybe not. Maybe they want to opt for another tackle or something like that. But I think if he's still around early in the 4th round, the Patriots would go ahead and snag him. And look, we saw Demario Douglas, what he did at the Shrine Bowl last year, really was kind of the Roman Wilson of the Shrine Bowl, really the standout wide receiver. I think Wilson is that guy this year. Obviously, it's worked out very well with Douglas. He is the slot receiver of the future in New England. And I was looking at some stats. He had the 3rd best open rate of all the rookie receivers in the entire NFL this past season. Demario Douglas did. So He did that too, sitting on the bench a big chunk of the first half of the season as well, when Belichick put him in the doghouse, which I didn't really agree with. But Roman Wilson, another guy who's really going to start moving up the draft boards. Although I don't think Douglas did because of his size, but I think Roman Wilson, many thought would be a day 3 guy, probably a 3rd or 4th round guy now. I've heard a lot of comparisons between him and Amon-Ra St. Brown in Detroit. Would be very happy with a guy like that in the Patriots offense who would contribute right away. And last but not least, another wide receiver is South Carolina's Xavier Legette. Will probably go a little bit higher on the draft board. I've even seen him projected as high as a late 1st round pick, but I think he will probably be an early 2nd round pick, which means right where the Patriots are drafting, which I believe is the 2nd pick in the 2nd round. He will likely be available, and I wouldn't be surprised if they got him. He's a big contested catch guy, 6'3", 223 pounds, can make difficult catches in traffic and along the sidelines. He's going to be able to toe tap at an NFL level right away. We saw that with Kayshon Boutte early on, which cost him the first game of the season against the Eagles. He's not going to have that problem. Legette's going to be ready there on day 1. Incredible speed, particularly when he has some time to accelerate. A real deep threat who can stretch the field, which is something the Patriots really do need. Also very flexible, agile, has good balance and burst, and he can break open on routes very easily. Now, there are some concerns here with Legette. He does have some issues in recognizing zone coverage and knowing when to sit. He seems to just continue running on his routes in college. That's something he's going to need to improve on against a lot of zone defenses in the NFL. He also relies a little too much on his contested catch ability, and there is evidence that he does lack effort in that area where he could be creating separation where he should. So he's going to have to find that balance of, do I keep running or do I sit against zone defenses? That's going to be a struggle, and he's going to have a hard time adjusting to some of these more complex NFL defensive schemes. So that's a real concern. But a real athlete, real speed, able to make contested catches. He's the guy you wanted Devontae Parker to be. But he's going to be able to separate, I think, a lot more than Parker could at the NFL. So those are the 4 guys I think the Patriots are really taking a strong eye at the Senior Bowl. There's obviously a lot more. I think the Patriots met with Legette last night, so they're clearly thinking of drafting him probably in the 2nd round if he's available. I'm not going to break down the tackle position too much, just because there are so many great tackles in this draft. I wouldn't be shocked if 8 tackles are drafted in the 1st round, which I believe would be an NFL record. I think the record's 7. It might be 8. But there may be as many going as 8 or maybe even 9 in the 1st round. And tackles are in high demand, and there's a lot of good ones in this draft. But there are guys like, Graham Barton of Duke, Tyler Guyton of Oklahoma, and Patrick Paul of Houston, who kind of rank, 7 through 10 of the tackles there. If the Patriots do opt for a quarterback at number 3 overall, I'm sure they would consider targeting the tackle position with one of those 3 guys in the 2nd round. So we'll see what happens there. Encourage you to tune into the Senior Bowl. We'll get a lot more analysis coming from that. We'll be back next week on PatsCast, maybe back earlier if there's any more news breaking, particularly with the offensive coordinator search. Right now, it still looks like Nick Caley's the favorite. Still no word on Josh McDaniels. But I mentioned, if you watch yesterday's podcast, that I think McDaniels, if there is any smoke there, if there are any rumors there, then it's probably going to happen. And that's why I think the Patriots are looking at their options elsewhere before maybe going back to McDaniels, if that's something they want to consider. But right now, Rams tight ends coach, former Patriots tight ends coach Nick Caley seems to be the favorite. We'll be here at PatsCast to cover it. Like this video and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe wherever you watch your podcasts.